Do this look like work to you? Nah.
You're listening to the DAAB Podcast with your hosts, Andrew Romanella.
I like that. That's what I'm talking about. I'll be the best cheerleader. Father Time apparently doesn't know Tom Brady's address.
And Anthony Rinaldi.
Love the hardwood. That's my passion. Houston, they don't have a problem. Listen, you don't even have to listen.
The show starts now.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. This is the DAAB Podcast, episode 20. Coming at ya. I am your host, Andrew Romanella, and alongside me, always, is my partner, Anthony Rinaldi.
Andrew, how are you?
I'm doing great, Ant. We have an awesome show lined up today. The NBA playoffs are popping off. A fourth straight year of Golden State versus Houston. I'm not very happy about it. I know neither are you. Two semi-decent Game 7s on the Eastern and Western Conference side. One great Game 7 in the NHL and one great Game 1 of the Stanley Cup Finals between the Las Vegas Golden Knights and the Washington Capitals. Plus, we have to dive into the MLB. The Yankees, the Mets, around the league, some bullpen ERAs, the whole 9 yards. Of course, Twitter and Instagram.
Social media blitz.
DAAB balls on both DAABpodcast.com, iTunes, Apple Podcast, and Podbean. And of course, PowerOnPerformance.com for the gear, apparel, and knickknacks, coffee mugs to boot. I'll tell you what, before we get going into the sports, how important, Anthony, is it for the people out there to get their podcast apparel? Because they're listening. We see that they're listening. We're about to reach 1,000, but...
Say what? A dime?
We need more apparel sales.
That's it. Get your tank tops ready. Summer weather.
DAAB tank top is perfect for that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Let's get it on the... People, represent. Wear the gear. Tell your friends. Tell your friends.
I'm going to tell my friends that it is 4 years straight that I have to watch the Golden State Warriors and the Cleveland Cavaliers face off in the NBA Finals. And I'll tell you what, sitting here today, Anthony, I'm not very happy about it.
I've been calling it all basketball season, Andrew. Come on now. Why aren't you excited? LeBron James carrying the Cleveland Cavaliers all the way to another. And by another, I mean 8 straight for the King, Andrew. He's been doing this almost as long as since you've been before high school.
Yes, and you can't disagree that he is, if not the greatest player of all time, 1B as the greatest player of all time. And he's proving it because you don't need another person on the team. Now, by saying that, I do have to give credit to the bench and the secondary cast of the Cleveland Cavaliers as to why they were able to get into the finals. I know LeBron James was LeBron James in Game 7, and the Boston Celtics couldn't handle it. But at the end of the day, the guys that needed to show up, the supporting cast that LeBron supposedly hasn't had, needed to do something, and they did enough.
LeBron James, the player, great. LeBron James, the GM, terrible. Andrew, he put this team together. You know the roster. Let me just go back 11 years ago, 2007. LeBron had Ilgauskas, Drew Gooden, Larry Hughes, Sasha Pavlovic, Daniel Gibson, Anderson Varejao, Donyell Marshall, and some other dudes. All right? Look at the roster in 2018. Tristan Thompson, Kevin Love, Kyle Korver, J.R. Smith, Green, George Hill, Clarkson, Nance Jr., and some other guys. Which team do you think has a better chance? Back in 2007, I believe they lost to, what was that, San Antonio?
Yes.
Or this year in 2018 against your Golden State Warriors?
I'm going to have to say in 2007.
No, come on.
Yes.
Listen,
because this team has another all-star on it. I know he didn't play in Game 7, but Kevin Love is an all-star.
Soft
I know
all-star.
he's soft. He's a soft all-star. That's great, but he's still an all-star. What name the all-star on the roster from 2007? I'll wait.
No, they don't have what I'm saying. I think the 2018 roster, they're better off.
Yeah, I think the 2007 roster is worse.
Oh, right.
That was a worse team.
Right, but you've seen LeBron go from what he was, I think it was his 4th year in the league, to where he is now, playing probably arguably
Yes.
the best basketball we've seen,
Yes.
clearly since you've been alive.
Without LeBron James, the Cleveland Cavaliers aren't even in the playoffs. And that's why I don't put a lot of stock in the NBA MVP.
Oh my God, garbage vote.
Because it's really the most outstanding player, not the most valuable player. Because I do agree, James Harden on the Rockets makes the Rockets the 1 seed in the Western Conference. But no James Harden and still Chris Paul on the Rockets makes the Rockets probably the 5 seed in the Western Conference, i.e. Oklahoma City Thunder, the better version. James Harden in the regular season and the LeBron James in the regular season, one is still a playoff team if you remove them from their roster. The other, we saw it already. The minute LeBron left and went to Miami, what happened to the Cavaliers?
They were a lottery team, Andrew.
And that's how they got Kyrie Irving.
Yeah.
Because LeBron left.
Thank you, LeBron. The man that keeps giving.
He went for 35, 15 rebounds, 9 assists,
Should have had way more, but his team can't hit an open jump shot.
and 2 blocks.
I got a defensive nugget for you, Andrew. Let me see if I can dig it up.
Oh, and by the way, Jeff Green, 19 points, 8 rebounds. That is a secondary that you needed. Tristan Thompson, 4-4 from the field, 9 rebounds. That right there, those lines right there, you didn't even need the 3-point shooting ability of Kyle Korver to win that game. And I want your defensive nugget because this was a low-scoring ball game, 87-79.
This was going back like 1975.
Back in the day,
Knicks Pacers.
and it was a complete opposite of what you saw on the western side, and we'll get to that. But it was a low-scoring affair, and I think Boston may have lost it a little bit more than the Cavaliers won it.
They said LeBron James was the primary defender on 19 field goal attempts. All right? Boston made 6 of them. That's not too good, Andrew.
That's not very good.
What's that? Under 30%?
And that's what he brings to a team. And I believe it was Alan Hahn that said this. There's no other sport like the NBA where one person could walk in the gym and literally say, my team is going to win today because I'm the best player in this building and there's nothing you can do about it. Because think about it. In football, you either play offense or you play defense. In hockey, you can do both, but in hockey, you can't dominate the sport the same way you can basketball. But a goaltender can have a shutout, can give up nothing, but you can't control the scoring on the other side. In baseball, you've seen it before. You could throw a no-hitter and still lose a game in the 10th or 11th inning because you can't swing the bats. You can't score the runs. So basketball, like no other sport, you can do that. And that is what LeBron James did. And to your point about him being that good defensively, it's not just on the offensive side with him. He's going to guard primary guys on every team in the big-time games and big-time moments.
Dude just shows up, Andrew. Played 48 minutes. Won his 6th straight Game 7. LeBron is 6-2 in Game 7s. He's going to his 8th straight finals, like I've said. And I know this is kind of an awkward stat because he's the 6th player to do it. But he's the 6th player in NBA history to play 8 straight finals. The 5 other guys were the Boston Celtics in the 1950s and 60s, Andrew. That right there shows you just what kind of willpower that man has over the rest of his squad.
It's unreal. And it brings up the debate, and we have to keep hearing this debate of LeBron versus MJ and who's better, who's the greatest of all time. At the end of the day, and I do want to get into it for a second because I do have a question for you posed to us by one of our fans and a family member. But
that's got to be a dab. We got to do a whole dab on Michael Jordan.
Well, we did. We could get deeper into it.
Where was I on that one? Was I there?
I was in Long Island. I know that.
I don't think I was there.
I think you were there. But oftentimes those things do happen to you where it doesn't seem like you're there. But either way, it brings up that debate because, again, you can beat a dead horse on this one because without LeBron James, you marvel at what he does because it is nothing. And on the other side of the coin, you saw, I think, for the first time all year, in the most crucial moment, missing Kyrie Irving and Gordon Hayward, Boston shortened their bench. They only played 7 guys last night, and that was 30-plus minutes for all 7 of those guys. Now, Cleveland only went 8 deep, but 8 deep and LeBron James is on the other side, only having a 7-man rotation and not primary scoring off the bench. You had Markieff Morris and Marcus Smart coming off the bench. Smart gave you 4 points. He was 1 for 10 from the field. Mr. Baines in the starting lineup, he didn't even record a field goal. That's not good in Game 7.
I'll tell you this, Andrew. If Kyrie stayed in Cleveland, he'd probably be going to the finals again.
I absolutely agree with that. And they'd have a chance to win.
If he'd been healthy for the Celtics, he'd probably be going to the finals, Andrew. So for all those people who were talking about how Terry Rozier stepped up these playoffs, he might have when he wasn't playing LeBron James. But all that nonsense about let's trade him to San Antonio for Kawhi Leonard, your boy Terry Rozier was 0 for 10 from three-point land in Game 7.
Not good.
I think he scored 4 points in 35 minutes or something like that.
You can't have that.
Yes, the man, he's a young man, so he played well. You got to give him that. Dude showed out in the playoffs.
2 of 14 overall from the field in 36 minutes.
Looks like Anthony in the Purple Squad on a good Monday night. The dude is a young Thundercat. He'll be back. Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum.
Jaylen Brown, 5 of 18 from the field, 13 points.
Listen, they had to grow up quick, Andrew. This is going to only help Boston. And
Tatum put out, though.
Tatum, that dunk on LeBron. Did you see that dunk on LeBron?
And then the shoulder. Ooh. But
and he still lost.
He didn't score a point the rest of the game.
No, did he bury that 3? I think he did a step back 3. Was that before the dunk?
I'm almost 100% positive he did not. And someone check me on this. I'm not going to check right now. It's somebody's job to check me on that and find us on social media at DAAB Balls, Twitter, and Instagram. All right?
Social media,
That's the job of that person. But I don't think he scored, and that was LeBron James going, hey, kid, you're good. And he complimented Jason Tatum after the game. He did compliment him in his press conference, but he was like, listen, kid, you're good, but you're not on this level yet.
No, listen, there's nobody on LeBron's level. And going back to the Jordan-LeBron thing, why can't we just say LeBron is our generation's Michael Jordan?
That's what it is, though.
Like, why does everyone's butt hurt have to get, all puckered up? Oh, my God, LeBron James did this. He's such a bum. He did that. Michael Jordan was so much better at this. They were both great players. Can't we just appreciate what we're watching? Because we're probably not going to see that again. I mean, yeah, there's some close... No, I'm not going to say there's some close players in the league. We thought KD was ascending to that LeBron, kind of level, because the dude is KD's a better scorer than LeBron, but physically, mentally, and just overall, just basketball IQ, there's nothing like a LeBron James.
I agree 100%. We had this debate all weekend, and my brother-in-law Sean and I posed this question to him, and he told me it was a garbage debate. And it might be or it might not be, but I think it's fair. And I have one major example that I think kind of backs it up. And I know it's different sports, but the question is, does LeBron James leaving Cleveland have an effect on his legacy in the debate of Jordan versus LeBron as the greatest player of all time? Because you can hold against Michael Jordan the fact that he played baseball for 2 years, and instead of winning 6 straight finals, or maybe 8 straight, or adding more to his legacy and going to 8 finals, LeBron could be tying Michael Jordan for the amount of finals appearances right now, maybe, if he didn't go play baseball. Because if you think about it, that was a 56-win Bulls team without Michael Jordan on it. But my question to you, Ant, is it fair to bring those two topics, LeBron leaving to Miami to go chase a ring and going back, KD doing the same thing, Jordan leaving to go play baseball and coming back? Can you hold that against these guys when you discuss their legacy as the greatest of all time?
When you get to the pinnacle of where these guys are, every facet of their being will be used in an argument by fans, because that's what they do. Sure, LeBron left Cleveland. Boo-hoo, Cleveland. You got a bunch of lottery picks for it because you were garbage. And you know what it was? LeBron wanted to go to college. All right? He spent 4 years in Miami. That was his college stint because he went to basketball right at a ripe old age of 18. He wanted to live a little bit on South Beach. Can you blame the guy? Have you seen South Beach? I want to live there. Next, what LeBron versus Michael versus LeBron. At the end of the day, it's really just, like I wanted to harp on before, it's just watching absolute greatness. And we should do another dab on it, and we should compare the eras, Andrew, actually. Because it's tough to debate this because I think we're playing two different kinds of basketball.
I agree with that.
Era-wise.
This is the greatest player of our era and our generation. Michael Jordan was the greatest player of his era and his generation. Wilt Chamberlain was the greatest player in his era and his generation. That's just the way these things work.
And I don't know, off the top of my head, I can think of a lot of talented players right now in the NBA. But going back to the 80s and 90s, my brain, I was obviously a youngin' back then, so I wasn't really a basketball aficionado, so I couldn't name all the players. But I don't know talent-wise how much we can compare to today's player to yesteryear's player, because nowadays every big man, every man shoots a 25-footer beyond.
That's absolutely the truth too, and we talked about this, right? The big man then was literally, his back was to the basket. He was trying to use his size. He wasn't shooting anything further than 8 feet out. Tim Duncan was probably extending the most a big man did when he turned around, bank shot off the glass 10 out of 10 times every time he took the shot. But that's the truth. It's a different game. The errors are completely different. And you have to just sit back and just for 1 second just appreciate whether you like or don't like LeBron James. I will always argue the fact that I do not like that he talks so much about himself in certain ways. He's probably one of the greatest human beings on earth. He's donated over $4 million to charities. He's helped numerous kids and thousands of kids go to school, stay in school, go to college, scholarships. He's fantastic in his community. He's great for the city of Cleveland, his hometown in Akron. I'll go on and on about how great of a person he is, but at the end of the day, I just don't believe he needs to be going on Twitter and saying, oh, congratulations on 30,000. Just let the millions and millions and millions of people that gawk over you and fangirl and fanboy over you and cover you and write about you, let them do that. You don't need to do that. And I think that's the thing that separates Michael and LeBron from me. They're the greatest players of all time. In my mind, together in two different spots, like we just said. But what separates them from me is just that aspect of it, where Michael never talked about it. He just did it.
Well, to be fair, Michael also didn't have Twitter.
That's true.
You know
Social
what I mean?
media is huge.
Social media blitz. He's worldly known as one of the world's greatest trash talkers, and he probably took everybody to the mat. He was probably doing what LeBron did. That's kind of what they kind of build on that. Like those LeBron haters will take. They kind of say, LeBron just kind of emits that air of I'm the king type thing. He's kind of magnanimous. It's a big word.
Huge word. That's
Shout
a
out
word.
Toilet paper of the day. Like you said, he talks about himself. He wrote that note to himself. A younger LeBron or older LeBron at 30,000 points. Congratulations to you. I mean, it's a little much, a little self-involved.
And
but
I mean, I get it. It's an unreal accomplishment.
But the fact that I never answered your original question, Andrew. I apologize.
That's all right.
But yes, I would. Yes and no. You got to use LeBron going to Miami against him and Michael going to MLB against him and his legacy.
And his gambling, I'm sure, too, is off the court antics as well.
Right. But if LeBron never went back to Cleveland and won a championship, I'd agree with Cleveland. Cleveland should hold a grudge. I would have no problem with them burning his jersey like they did last time, even though I think that's retarded because
I agree.
You're just wasting your
own money.
And really, what does that prove besides that you can
and
light
we
something on
all
fire?
knew he was going to come back at some point.
Right. So, and if he leaves again, and if anybody has a nerve to burn his jersey again and call him a traitor or something, or Benedict Arnold, you clearly are lost.
And don't understand it.
Right, because that dude, like Andrew said, I think he's given up $41 million.
Yeah, did I say four?
Yeah.
It's something crazy.
It's like $41 million. He's putting many kids in Akron through college, which is, I mean, above and beyond. He's a great public speaker. He uses his platforms. Some may not agree with, his stance. And sadly, a lot of it, more recent hate, probably stems from his political views. We're not going to get into that rabbit hole because that'll just take us down a deep, dark place. But the man he's human, Andrew. And he left his hometown, Cleveland, wanted to chase that ring, just to get a taste. So he knew what to do and how to bring that back to Cleveland. And then you saw that when he brought the championship back to Cleveland, down 3-1 to an ultimate Golden State, 73-win Golden State Warrior team.
And this is the last thing I'm going to say about this topic because I want to talk about this year's version of the Golden State Warriors and how terrible the Houston Rockets are and James Harden is in the playoffs. But what sparks that as a question for me about this debate, and any debate about the greatest player of all time in a sport, is the sole reason why Pete Rose isn't in the Baseball Hall of Fame is because what he did off the field. What he did not playing the game of baseball. I get that he was in the game of baseball, and I get that baseball had a history of money and gambling and backside deals and throwing baseball games, i.e. the Black Sox scandal. So that history has been in the game of baseball, but the sole reason why Pete Rose isn't in the Hall of Fame is because of what he did off the field.
Gambling is legal now, Andrew. Should we reconsider?
I said
Mr.
that to you
Rose?
a few weeks ago.
I know. I thought about it a little bit, but that's a dab right there in itself.
Well, that's really, it comes down to the baseball commissioner, Manfred, and what he would want to do if he feels like that is possible. I think at the end of the day, you're probably never going to get Pete Rose into the Hall of Fame until you probably get, which is funny, I feel like the millennial age level, the people that are my age, are starting to look at the people that grew up in the steroid area, are starting to almost look at it like, this is stupid now, because Barry Bonds, same thing. At a time when steroids were legal, on the cusp of not being legal, he took steroids, allegedly, never has been proven guilty, not in the Hall of Fame, greatest home run hitter of all time. Pete Rose had most hits all time in Major League Baseball, was betting on games that he was managing for the Cincinnati Reds, has been banned from baseball and not in the Baseball Hall of Fame. Roger Clemens, one of the top 10 arms of all time. I'm going to go on and on and on, and I'm not going to for the sake of this show, but at the end of the day, that's where it stems from, and we all need to reevaluate this conversation of the greatest of all time, and at the end of the day, if I want to feel some type of way about LeBron leaving, or MJ leaving to go play baseball, or MJ being a gambler, I'm allowed to feel that way, and that's allowed to be in my argument, because the writers essentially in other sports, and even in this sport as well, have shunned certain people for what they've done off the field, so we are allowed to stay consistent with that, any debate we have.
Old man writers just want to keep out all the knuckleheads. Listen, Cooperstown, if you're listening, I know you are. Build a wing. It could be a crappy wing. Nobody cares. Just put all the cheaters, the liars, the hooligans in that
who
wing.
You suspect.
And yeah, exactly. Put a little asterisk. Boom, boom, boom. So because everyone knows who they are, what they did now. It's all over the internet. It's all over. It doesn't matter. Just let them in. Put a little asterisk next to the record, like Andrew said. We have the hit king not in the Hall of Fame. The home run leader, although I believe it's still Hank Aaron, because no way Barry Bonds, who went from a 20-20 guy, all of a sudden jacks out 73 home runs a year.
Another dab.
His head is the size of a friggin' watermelon.
It is fair when it comes to who the greatest of all time is, and behind LeBron James, there's always a debate in current NBA about who's probably the guy behind him. You hear Steph Curry, you hear KD, you're starting to hear Giannis Antetokounmpo, you're starting to hear Anthony Davis, other guys circulate. I think, and it was a mediocre performance at best by the Golden State Warriors on Monday night, but I think at best, but Kevin Durant was great when he needed to be. Steph Curry was very, very good to great when he needed to be. And those two, but Durant more so than anything, proved their worth and their notch as superstars and great players of all time in this league.
I mentioned before, KD, we thought was ascending towards that LeBron type of level just because the dude could get a shot over anybody. There's really no defender in the league who can really size him up because he's so tall and long and his shot is so smooth. That's why he's got a great nickname, Iceberg Slim.
That's why his fadeaway is so deadly, because he's fading away and stretching out that tall frame he already has.
The Golden State Warriors really, though, only go as Steph Curry goes. No offense to Kevin Durant, but you kind of see when it's almost like a ball magnet. KD will raise his hand, and out of nowhere, the ball just flings to his arm. And they kind of stand around. There's no real flow or movement, and Golden State is the most deadly when they're all touching the ball and they're all passing the ball in the perimeter, and they always get that wide open look. So we see when Steph Curry's running off picks, getting these silly through-the-legs passes from R.J. Bell, and he's knocking down threes right in Eric Gordon's face against the Rockets. I mean, we see the open threes, and once I think Steph scored 9 points with three threes in a row. It literally just took the heart and soul right out of the Rockets and that crowd.
Oh, you felt it when you were watching the game. it was unreal to just watch the Rockets fall apart that quickly and continue to throw brick after brick after brick at the basket. 7 of 44 from beyond the arc during the game. At one point, 0 for 27 from beyond the arc. And as good as Curry was, 27 points, 10 assists, 9 rebounds, 7 of 15 from beyond the arc. As good as Durant was, 34 points, he had 5 rebounds, 5 assists, 3 blocks, 5 of 11 from 3, 11 of 21, 50% overall. As good as those two guys were, I can't help but say right now, the Rockets absolutely 100% choked it all in the third quarter. And Mike D'Antoni, James Harden, and the rest of the bunch refused to make an adjustment when it mattered most. And they went down with the ship, just throwing up brick after brick after brick.
She's a brick.
They could have built a house with the amount they threw up in the
Andrew,
basket.
you're right. 0 for 27 at one point. Mike D'Antoni never had Plan B, Andrew. And if I'm Houston, I'm taking a good look at the roster because they have a lot of pieces, expensive pieces, that are going to be tough to move in free agency. I'm pretty sure Chris Paul's coming back. I think he's a free agent after this year, actually. But I'm pretty sure they've kind of worked behind the scenes to get something, at least a handshake agreement. I don't think he's leaving because that squad is so good. But there's not much coaching out there right now, but I would think about letting Mike D'Antoni go.
I agree.
I mean, there's no adjustments from that man going back from his time with the Knicks and Phoenix and the Lakers. I mean, you saw his team get a shot up within 7 seconds or less. ISO ball. And if that's not going, there's no backup plan. And you saw the Rockets literally they made John Starks in the 94 finals look like a sharpshooter, Andrew. I mean, 0 for 27. That's ridiculous.
If you're going to fire the head coach for the Toronto Raptors, you can seriously now think about letting go of Mike D'Antoni. Because it's proven that offense can get you there, but that offense can't win when it matters the most. Nor can James Harden, who is cementing himself as one of the best regular season players of all time, right next to Russell Westbrook.
32 points, 6 assists, 6 boards for the Beard. Listen, that's a great game.
It's not good enough.
Right. Down the stretch when it's most important, when you see all your threes aren't going, you need to take the ball to the hole and get those and one calls.
I mean, he was 2 of 12.
So was Eric Gordon, I think.
Bad.
They're awful.
That's game 7, and this is why, from the get-go, I told you, you said it as well, 2 of 13 from beyond the arc for James Harden, 2 of 12 for Eric Gordon. That's just bad. Bad when you needed it most, and over and over and over and over and over. The Rockets themselves, the Raptors, the Celtics right now, maybe not if Hayward and Kyrie are healthy, but we'll find that out next year. The Portland Trail Blazers, these teams are just proving over and over and over again that the regular season doesn't matter, and it's really detrimental, I think, to the NBA at this point.
Andrew, who's the 2 number 1 seeds in the playoffs? Who had home court?
That was the Toronto Raptors.
They were number
and the
1,
Houston Rockets.
Right. They were both number 1, but yeah, Boston also had home court because they had Game 7.
Yep, because they were the 2 seed.
And now they're 37-1 after going up 2-0 in a conference series.
That's what I'm saying. That is what I'm saying. They're proving the regular season doesn't matter. So before we get off of this, because basketball is en fuego right now, and again, it still doesn't speak to the fact that Game 7s were both not very good. They weren't very enjoyable to watch.
14 of 81 the home teams were shooting threes, by the way.
Right. They're not very enjoyable
combined.
to watch.
That's not one game, folks. Get it straight.
This new style of just shoot it until you find it again is not very enjoyable. And for as much as we talk about baseball needing to figure it out with the strikeouts and the home runs, I think basketball needs to figure it out with the three-pointers and the referees.
They say video killed the radio star. The three-pointer killed the mid-range game. I mean, it's either three-pointer or a layup or dunk.
Right. And if the Rockets didn't even realize the 3 times they went to the hoop in the fourth quarter, they scored 6 consecutive points, and through the exchange of points, they ended up only being down by 6 once they made that third field goal. oh, weird, why not keep going to the hoop for twos? Well, instead they started breaking threes again, and of course you saw how that ended. So, real quick, before we move into the NHL, we got Golden State, we got Cleveland again. How many games, and who you got? My guess is I know.
Warriors in 6.
Wow.
I'm gonna give LeBron.
You're giving him
listen,
two.
this is the most. This is a weird phrase. The chinkiest of Golden State Warrior teams we're gonna see. There's a lot of chinks in that armor, and I think just the greatness of LeBron. He's, you know what? Because everyone knows they're a dog. They're a huge dog in Vegas, Andrew. The biggest dog, actually, I think, of record of late. So nobody believes that they're gonna win. So that's just more fuel to LeBron's fire.
I'm going to go Golden State in 5. I give LeBron 1 game. I think it's just too much. Golden State can be and is too good. Even without Andre Iguodala, I don't care. I just think they have too much. I think they're so good at home that there's not a chance for the King to go in there without a secondary guy that can be as good as Kyrie was when they went in and actually won a Game 7 at Oracle. I don't think that guy is there. So I'm going Golden State in 5, but I think either way, 5, 6, or 7. I think, the NBA needs to hope for a really good, real classic series, i.e. Boston versus Lakers in the 80s. And I think if it goes Game 7, your best case scenario all across the board.
Game 7, best phrase in sports.
If you're in Game 7 with your house remodel, your interior, your exterior,
Game time,
your kitchen, your bath, your deck, whatever it is, if it's crunch time and you need to call somebody to help you remodel and re-love your home, you know who that person is?
Who's that?
That's Frankie Franchise Construction. And you can call Frank Franchise at 973-789-6236 or email him at frank.franchiseconstruction@gmail.com. He is one of the best in remodeling interior and exterior design. We said it before, we'll say it again, remodel and relove your home with Franchise Construction, 973-789-6236 or frank.franchiseconstruction@gmail.com. We dabbed about the NHL for 30 minutes on Friday. We had special guest Rocky Romanella, NHL expert for the DAAB Podcast, on. We dissected Game 7. Your what do you got pick of Braden Holtby, we'll get into in a little bit, was fantastic. The Capitals won. It was the Golden Knights. It was the Capitals. It was Game 1 in Vegas. The pregame show was popping, and the game was popping as well.
Andrew, of course, Holtby and Fleury would give up 10 goals in Game 1. Andrew.
That's unbelievable, but I'll tell you what, it made for some really good hockey because it was offense, back, and forth. What I loved the most about watching that game was understanding how much this Las Vegas community, and I know I've spoken a lot about this in the last few weeks, but how much that community is really taken into that hockey team and how much the fans of sports have taken into that hockey team. We've talked about this a lot. The NHL playoffs, if there's a time for you to get hooked, and we talked about it on Friday, if there's a time for you to get hooked into hockey, it's the NHL playoffs, and specifically the Stanley Cup Finals. And there's just something different about hockey players. I think you saw Alex Ovechkin take a puck to the face and not even flinch. It was almost like he was swatting a mosquito away, just like directly to the mouth. They didn't even think twice. It's a different animal. And the ratings proved it. From the 2017 Stanley Cup, it's up 7% Game 1 was, and it was a 3.72 on the ratings scale. That is up an additional 29%, so a total of 36% from 2016 ratings for Game 1 of the Stanley Cup Finals. I think that trend forward right there is tipped off with what Las Vegas has done this year.
Listen, you hooked me. I actually watched the majority of that game up to the third period because that's when the Game 7 kicked off. And listen, I mean, like you said, right off the gate, Vegas goes up for the quick on the power play. They get that quick bang. That was a hell of a wrist shot. I mean, just watching these guys fling that black rubber puck at each other, and for no disregard for their human body parts. I mean, hockey players are just a different breed of animal, and you got to watch the NHL playoffs. I mean, it's guaranteed up and down action. That's the best part about hockey. There's no timeouts, no commercial breaks. It's 20 minutes for the most part. Every once in a while they get an icing call and they got a 10-second station ID. But for the most part, Andrew, it's back and forth, up and down. They scored 10 goals in Game 1. I don't think Game 2 will have that much scoring, but because most coaches will come with their defensive strategies.
Well, that's what I think too.
Game 1's kind of a feeling out. Like you throw a few jabs in there, you don't really give your hand away, and you notice. Las Vegas, their fourth line brought the hammer in Game 1, Andrew.
They were the difference maker for this Golden Knights team, and overall, Don LaGreca tweeted this out, and I subtweeted him on our Twitter account at DAAB Balls, but he said that proved right there why a fourth line is so important in the NHL and why a fourth line is the key to you most likely winning a Stanley Cup, because it's not even about them scoring goals. The goals that Vegas got from their fourth line in Game 1 were huge. But it's the energy that they bring on the ice. They're usually bad mamma jammas. They're guys that aren't afraid to go in the corners and rough it up. And, that has, over time in the history of hockey, proven to be a huge difference maker in the playoffs. And for Vegas the other night, that's what it was. And you ask yourself, why? Well, that's the beauty of the expansion draft and what the front office for Las Vegas has done for this team. Because you don't have a high-profile guy that you're paying like an Ovechkin or like a Lundqvist or like a Sidney Crosby, where you're putting a lot of money towards that guy. You have the opportunity to have better depth on this team because you didn't have to give those contracts to that type of guy, and you saw it pay dividends in Game 1.
Washington took that 4-3 lead about 70 seconds right into the third period. And typical Vegas Knights, a minute 30 later, they responded and tied the game up with one of their fourth line players, Andrew. So, and if you go back and look throughout the playoffs,
yes,
Vegas
Ryan Reeves that tied the game at 4-4.
So you see it. Vegas has been prone to these these goal, or responding to a goal. Team scores a goal. I think it happened in Winnipeg when they faced off against the Jets. You saw that they scored right away, and bang, Vegas comes right down and scores. There is no quit in these Vegas Knights, and I think they feed off that raucous Vegas crowd. I listen. That place was rocking. They had a drum line.
They fire you up. The entrance gets you fired up. They're defeating 31 teams started out on this journey, and now only 2 remain, and they're knocking down the flags. Listen, if you haven't watched it, go watch it. I'll retweet it. I'll do whatever so you can see it, but you need to see it. And what you were just speaking about, the response, that was all game, though. And that was what was so much fun about watching the game, is it was from both sides. TJ Oshie is proving to be a playoff guy. Like, he shows up in big moments. It all started with the USA team.
I was going to say, Andrew,
last night.
Isn't he the dude from the USA who crushed it?
The shootout, even though I think they finished 4th in that Olympics, or maybe 5th, but either way, TJ Oshie got his name then. Now in the playoffs, the Golden Knights scored 7 minutes in. 7 minutes later, the Washington Capitals responded. Then a minute and a half later, not even, they scored another goal. Then 3 minutes later, Vegas responded. It was not resting on what just happened, not being disappointed. It was literally the minute a team scored in Game 1, immediately the puck was back in the other zone. And you're sitting there going, oh my God, like, there's no let-up right now, and you love it. In the second period, Vegas scores 3 minutes and 21 seconds into the period. 5 minutes later, Washington responds. In the third period, Washington scores 1 minute in. A minute and a half later, Vegas responds. And you just saw continual action the whole time, and I am really, really excited for Game 2 of this series and the remainder of this series. I think overall, though, after Game 1, it just feels like Vegas is too much, and they'll end up on top.
I'm going to have to give you a little teaser alert, but winner of Game 1 goes on 78% of the time to hoist Lord Stanley's trophy. So I think the people know where I may go for my what do you got?
Well, that game is tonight, so tune into that. Game 2, 8 p.m. in Las Vegas. Please tune in early so you can see that pregame show, because that pregame show for Vegas is too legit, and you're going to be on your couch fired up.
Vegas has won 5 straight, Andrew. 7 of their last 8. They're 7-1 at home. And they're 6-2 on the road. Not too bad.
It's time for the NHL to be up front and center, and in a time when some NBA games are not that exciting, and for some reason, people aren't excited about Golden State and Cleveland for the fourth straight time, and I understand why. It's a great time for the NHL to have this series, and I'm excited. Tune in, watch it, even if you're not a hockey fan, because it is fun to watch.
Exactly. The NHL made a believer out of
Anthony
me.
Rinaldi.
That's right. I know so much about hockey right now. I'm like half Canadian.
You know what else you know a lot about, Anthony?
What's that?
That's Hawthorne Glass.
I know Hawthorne Glass.
And our man Angelo, who's got over 3 decades of quality service in the glass industry. It is springtime, ladies and gentlemen. It is warm weather, and that means it's time to fix those broken windows and those busted screens. Are you tired of that outdated shower curtain or that broken window? Get it fixed. Call Angelo, 973-427-4344, and get that quality service. Shower doors, tabletop, storefronts, he does it all. Mention DAAB Balls. Get 10% off your first purchase. That's Hawthorne Glass. That's Angelo. And again, it's 973. It's 427. It's 4344. Anthony, you have had 2 good weeks in a row on the What Do You Got scoreboard. You are starting to catch up on me. Your pick of Game 7 Capitals versus the Lightning was fantastic. Your pick of Braden Holtby was fantastic. He had a shutout. You took both points last week. You dominated my Mets versus Brewers pick. You dominated my Jason Vargas pick. He got lit up. The Mets lost 17-6. He was bad. They were bad. It was brutal. My record drops to 17-17 overall. Your record improves to 16-18 overall. You move within 1 game of me. You've worked your way all the way back. I gave it to you easy last week, and I picked first. So because of that, we're flipping the script back around. And Anthony Rinaldi, what do you got?
Don't call it a comeback. I've been here for years. Hey, Drew. I don't know what I got. No, I'm just kidding. I told you. I teased it earlier. Literally, like 3 minutes ago. Were you listening? Well, listen up, folks. Watch it tonight, Wednesday night, 8 p.m., NBC Sports Network. I have no idea what channel that is. Check your local listings. Give me the Capitals, Andrew. I told you, Game 1 winner wins 78% of the time. If Mr. Ovechkin, the Russian Hammer, I just made that up for him. I don't know if it's his nickname or not. It should be. If he wants to raise that Lord Stanley's Cup, they need to bring it in game number 2, Andrew. Ovi's going to score 1 and assist in 1. Give me the 4-2 victory for the Capitals. Bringing it back to Washington.
Wow.
Andrew, what do you got?
You are going hockey all up and down.
I'm a hockey
Wazoo.
maven.
The Caps find a way to win the Stanley Cup. Are you contemplating a Capitals jersey?
I don't know. I'm really intrigued by beer bonging a beer out of a catfish.
You really were a Nashville Predators guy, weren't you?
But they're out of it. So listen, I could be swayed. I'm a big bandwagon jumper. I have multiple Golden State Warrior jerseys lined up because, listen, when the Knicks are in the tank, I got to look for somebody.
So you are going game 2 of the NHL Stanley Cup Finals. I love it. And you
I
are
want to
going
get the listeners in on the hockey train.
Alexander Ovechkin for your player to watch.
That's right. 1 goal and an assist.
Man, I'm really happy that you put in that much effort to figure out the players that you should choose for your What Do You Got.
I know. I pick hard ones like the Sunday at the Masters.
I'm still living that one. All right. Well, I'm staying with the baseball.
Of course you are, Coach.
And I'm staying with the Mets.
Oh, brutal. How in the world can you root for that squad?
Listen, I know we're going to talk about it in a minute, but I'm staying with the Mets because it's Jacob deGrom's next start. And I'm just watching this game merely for the fact that it is about time the Metropolitans get Jacob deGrom a win.
In pinstripes? Oh, in a win. Oh.
Jacob deGrom, and that's another debate for another day. Jacob deGrom deserves a win. He's right now only has 4, but his ERA is a 1.52. You tell me if he's doing what he needs to be doing for the New York Mets. So, that's Saturday. They're playing the Cubbies, who are 28-22 currently. That is going to be a nighttime tip-off, 7:15. And watch your man Jacob deGrom on the hill, and let's see if the Metropolitans can get him a win for a long time and get Andrew a win and back on the What Do You Got winning train.
Just watch out. Be alert for those non-rain rain delays with those Mets.
you've been harping on my New York Mets, and of course, that's What Do You Got, brought to you by Hawthorne Glass and Armain.
Angelo.
3 decades of quality service, 973-427-4344. You've been harping on my Mets a lot, and I'm going to ask you right now, what is the deal? I know that they're not a great baseball team right now. I know that their bullpen isn't great. I know that everything Mickey Callaway touches seems to go to coal instead of gold. I know that the DL is about to be a lot more full with another big name. Things aren't great. Why do you got to keep adding on to it?
Well, let me ask you right off the bat, Mr. Romanella. Do you think your Mets are underachieving or overachieving? I mean, do you think with the amount of talent they have, but yes, granted that they are injured, but, granted they had an 11-1 start, which really helped them, kind of but kind of get through this DL stints of all your major players? So do you think they're overachieving because they have nobody? Or are they underachieving because they did have a great pitching staff, but they kind of seem to not give them the run support they need?
I think they're achieving at the line that, personally, I probably expected going into this year. I don't think they're overachieving because if you just look up and down the roster, listen, I get it. Jacob deGrom, Noah Syndergaard, those 2 names alone could put you in playoff contention in theory. But offensively, this is not a great team. You see some positives in Nimmo. Obviously, Conforto's going to be a dude. The problem is Cespedes can't stay healthy. Juan Lagares is a walking DL stint. There's no longer a reason in having him because he's not going to play more than 40 games. Jay Bruce all of a sudden looks old. We kind of finally figured out the catching situation, and your bullpen isn't great with not a lot of good names and Jay Rusmelia not being good. So when you look at the roster, I don't expect them to be the number 1 team in the NL East. Do I expect them to be 1 game over 500, muddling at 500, 2 games plus or minus? No. I expect them to be on the edge of a wild card. I expect them to be 1 or 2 games out the entire year. Probably don't get into the playoffs. If they do, they sneak in because other teams beat themselves. But that's where I see the New York Mets. So I guess maybe, and my brother got on me for thinking that I was being negative about the Mets. I don't think I'm being negative as much more as I feel like I'm being realistic. This is what it is. This is the talent level we have.
Exactly, man. You're a walking infirmary. Cespedes, Frazier, Rivera, Lagares, Ramos, Swarzak, Darnold, some dude named David Wright, Thor, all on the DL. Andrew.
David Wright.
Listen, he's still swinging the bat down there in Point St. Lucie, I think. Listen, I mean, your Mets, they're a brutal organization. I don't know how anybody can root for them. Obviously, you, Romanello clan, are diehards. Somehow, some way in life form, maybe you'll explain to me how you can stick with a squad like that.
I can tell you. When I was growing up, and it happened in California, I obviously am a Dolphins fan. My entire family is Giants fans. They have Giants season tickets. I am a New Jersey Devils fan. My entire family is New York Rangers fans. Okay? I was a quote-unquote Seattle Mariners fan because I was a huge Ken Griffey Jr. guy. I wore number 24. I hit like him, as every kid did, probably from the left-hand side growing up. And my dad essentially pretty much just told me one day, I'll give you the Dolphins and I'll give you the Devils, but I'm not giving you baseball. You're going to be a Mets fan. And that was it. Line drawn in the sand.
That's it. Papa Romanello.
And since then, I've been on a roller coaster ride of emotions year in and year out. And another year in 2018 in which I thought it was going to be different ends up, Anthony, being exactly the same.
That's what I feel like. I feel like the Mets are always given that false sense of hope. They're kind of like, yeah, this is going to be our year. We got the pitching. We got this. We got that. We bring back Cespedes. We get some locker room guys like Todd Frazier. And then they go ahead and do what they do. Start off 11-1. Really get the Met fans going, talking smack in New York about how they're the greatest team since sliced bread. And then they go through this little doldrums of the baseball season where it's just kind of up and down, Andrew. Well, let me ask you about a team that's 33-17 right now and how they can improve. Because I'm going to tell you right now, it's going to be starting pitching. And I goaded you earlier about putting Jacob deGrom in pinstripes. That's a pipe dream that's never going to happen. But, I mean, what do we do with these Yankees, Andrew? Struggling right now. back-to-back, got Houston. That was going to be my second what do you got pick. I thought about maybe going with Keuchel versus Severino.
Huge series.
But Andrew, tell me. We got our man, Birdman, back in the lineup. So shout out one of our very, very personal, good friend, listener, Arun Matani, shouting me out, asking about Greg Bird. And what do we do with this lineup? What are the trade chips that we see going forward for the Yankees? And Andrew, I'm here to tell you, I made a quick little list in my head of who I'm willing to give up for some pitching because I know when it comes down to it, home runs and power are great in the regular season, kind of like three-pointers are for basketball. But come postseason, when you're seeing great pitching, those home runs go away, Andrew.
And remember, DAABballs@gmail.com if you want to do what our man Rooney did and send the podcast an email. And we appreciate it. So, Rooney, thank you. DAABballs@gmail.com. Mr. Rinaldi, give it to us. What are your trade chips for the New York Yankees?
Listen, here's quickly, I would just say Andujar, Tyler Austin, Chance Adams, Justice Sheffield, Brandon Drury, anybody else not named Gleyber Torres, Aaron Judge. That's really it. I mean, obviously, Didi. And we have a bunch of prospects still in the AAA ranks. Some outfielders with some talent, just nowhere to play them right now. Even throwing Clint Frazier. My man's raking right now for AAA Scranton Wilkes-Barre. Trade him. Get rid of him. We need pitching. I don't know who's going to be available, though, Andrew. That's the key. Brian Cashman is going to be in that back room going through every single trade scenario he can. And he's going to look for the best available option. And frankly, if Sandy Alston does want to blow it up and restock the farm, the fact that if he wouldn't deal with the Yankees, but the Yankees are willing to give up the best prospects, I don't know how you don't pull the trigger, Andrew.
I agree 100%. I think I said it to you on a prior show, and as much as it breaks my heart to think that Jacob deGrom or Noah Syndergaard, because they're still pretty controllable contracts, wouldn't be in Met anymore, it makes me really sad. But at the end of the day, you're not winning with them. You had the run in 2015, you had the chance, but the first piece of that whole, dominant starting five and Matt Harvey is gone. I feel like Steven Matz is pretty much gone. He's a shell of what we thought he was going to be. Noah Syndergaard's walking the fine line with the amount of injuries he's had over the last year and a half. Jacob deGrom is really the one put-together guy, and he's so good. He's that good that you could Aroldis Chapman this thing and do what the Yankees did a few years ago and literally change the feeling on their entire minor league system with one trade.
I mean, like you said, Cashman was willing to blow it up in 2016. We thought it would take a little longer, but the team actually fought all the way to the end, and they provided a spark for those youngsters. I mean, look at all the talent the Yankees have in that farm system. I just don't know what package of players is going to get us that arm that we need. I mean, who's going to be available, Andrew? That's always going to be the question.
Well, I agree.
You see
what
a lot,
arms?
Yeah, exactly. I know there's a lefty out of Toronto. I forgot his name right now.
J-Happ?
It's a Happ. I don't know if it's him. It might be him. But he's on the block. I would look at, if Arizona keeps clunking, I would look at a Patrick Corbin.
Or a Greinke.
We talked about this. I don't think it works in New York for him. He's a knucklehead in the head. He doesn't like the pressure.
I don't think they trade Corbin. I think they trade Greinke.
You're right. But I think if the Yankees ask for Corbin and give you Frazier, Andujar, Austin, and a Chance Adams, that's 4 players that you can put right now in your system, in your team and make them effectively better.
I agree. See, I definitely use Andujar. That's my primary chip to get my primary arm. Maybe I give Tyler Austin and Andujar as a 2 for a pretty good prospect, a fantastic prospect, and 2 guys that are pretty much ready to be in the major leagues full time with a team that probably won't be in the playoffs this year but can get them 200 major league bats. That's kind of what I'm looking for. The other thing I think is you've seen this type of trade a lot. A guy like Drury that kind of fits in need for a 500 team moving forward, for a bullpen arm that's really, really good on that 500 ball club that's probably not going to make the playoffs, that trades that arm away to a team like the Yankees or a starter, something along those lines, using that chip. There's just a few different ways I feel like they can spin it, and at the end of the day, it comes back to your point of the depth being so rich that it almost feels like there can't be a way Brian Cashman can mess this up.
I mean, listen, we see in the Houston Astros, they're 5, almost 6 deep when it comes to starting pitchers, and they're going to shove the back end of 4 and 5 guys in the bullpen come playoff time. So you see the arms are what's needed. I can't trust Tanaka. He can't keep he goes once, twice through the lineup, okay. Third time he seems to get hammered. Can't keep the split finger down. CC, yeah, he's at I think a sub-3 ERA right now, but he kind of got roughed up a little bit by Houston. He's getting up there in age, and he's got no fastball. He's basically throwing junk. The only person I trust is Severino. And, I mean, that dude's he's our fireballer. He's throwing 98, 100. He gets you revved up. But other than that, you really don't have much in the way of starting pitching.
Any way you slice it, you need another one.
Exactly. So, and we have so many players. They always say it's a good problem to have, but I mean, it is a problem. So, I mean, is any problem good? Drury, Andujar, Austin, Bird. I mean, all these guys play the same positions. There's a log jam. The Yankees can't. Their bench is so short. It's only a catcher, backup catcher, Romine, because you have to have a backup catcher. It's Neil Walker, and I think it's one other player.
And I'm done with Neil Walker too if I'm the Yankees. What do you need him for?
He's kind of a utility guy. He plays first, plays second. He plays a lot of. He's kind of had a lot of clutch hits for the Yankees, and he's kind of that veteran.
It's true.
That veteran guy, and you won't get much back from Neil Walker. So I don't think you can trade him. You may be able to get rid of him just to make space for another younger player. But I don't. But the young guys are going to carry you. And I mean, I think tonight's lineup.
Do you like the lineup with Greg Bird? Because I know that's the other question Rooney asked was, what would your lineup be once Greg Bird comes back? Well, we saw him come back and be put in the 4 hole. Do you agree with that? Would you keep that there? Or would you make a different move if you're the New York Yankees?
I think it all depends on lefty-righty matchups, how you want to do it with the lineup. I know, Girardi was famous for going righty-lefty, righty-lefty. Maybe analytics don't tell you to do that this day and age, and Booney's kind of a player's coach, feels it out. But I think against Houston, Game 2, I think Bird batted in the 3 hole, and he's actually producing. He hit a home run off Verlander, only blemish on his night. I believe he had a double and an RBI in Game 2 against Houston. So he's coming off. He's slowly coming back from that injury. He's going to play at your first base. The dude plays a solid defensive first base. You'll get him some DH at spots when you can. But yeah, I'd say you leave him in the 3 or 4 hole for now, and you keep it that way. I'll run it down for you real quick. It's Gardner, Judge, Bird, Stanton, Sanchez, Gregorius, Hicks, Andujar, Torres. That's your lineup right now for New York Yankees. And by the way, Andrew, the best 2 hitters, they're kids, Andujar and Torres, 292 and 318 respectively.
And hitting in the 8 and 9 hole, which is huge for a lineup. It's just like when we talk about the 4th line in the NHL. Those 8 and 9 hitters are huge for a lineup to turn it back around. I like Bird in the 3 hole. I keep him there because when you have Judge hitting 2 and you have Stanton hitting 4, and you look at a situation trying to pitch around anybody, it's like, oh wow, you got this guy in the middle of those 2, and then after you get through that gruesome threesome, it's Sanchez, and then if Didi does finally eventually figure it out, you have Didi. I mean, you keep going down the line. But that, I think, is the best way to slice it, exactly what you just said if you're the New York Yankees.
And I hope Rooney appreciates the answer to his question.
And everyone else.
But I believe that he might be a Mets fan, Andrew. I think he's in your boat.
Good.
But he obviously loves the Yankees. Who doesn't love the Yankees?
Well, and they're just, the fact of the matter is, if you're a baseball fan, they're very fun to watch right now. Well, the last thing I'm going to ask you on this lovely midweek episode of the DAAB Balls Podcast, episode 20. You came in with some bullpen ERA information, and as we're talking about the Yankees going to get a starter, really, you don't even think about it. You don't even need the top 10 arm. You don't even need a Justin Verlander from last year with the Houston Astros if you're the Yankees, because you really need a guy that can get you 6 good innings, because the bullpen for the Yankees is so good. And what Major League Baseball is proving right now is the bullpen are the most important arms on your roster.
I feel like every manager asks his pitcher, just get me to 6. We'll do the rest. And there's singular guys earmarked for certain innings. I don't get it. You saw your boy Tito, Terry Francona. He did a little different.
Andrew Miller.
And I know Cleveland, I believe, is struggling. But I think Cleveland ranks pretty low when it comes to their bullpen, oddly, this year.
They're the worst bullpen in Major League Baseball.
Which is shocking, because isn't Cody Allen still making those saves for them? right? Is it Cody Allen? And they got Andrew Miller. But,
Andrew Miller might go on the DL with a potential knee injury. They're hoping he doesn't have to get surgery.
Man, some big names hitting that
Big
DL,
names.
Andrew. That's gonna Mookie Betts maybe, right? He's got a stiff back.
Big names. Yeah, that's gonna be hurt for Boston.
But listen to this. Speaking of Boston, these are just some little tidbits. A little hair piece of a tidbit from this 50-plus game schedule already. Boston has given up 3 runs in 32 2/3 innings. Their bullpen. That is a whopping .83 ERA. It's pretty good. The Milwaukee Brewers have given up only 9 runs in 47 1/3 innings for a good ERA of 1.71. Yankees rank 7th in bullpen ERA and 1st in Ks per 9. So what I'm getting at, Andrew, is you see the top of the list because Boston is 33 15, I believe, or something like that. Milwaukee's 34 20. Yankees are 33 17. These good squads, Andrew,
Best team in the league.
have deafening bullpens. Shut you down, lock you down,
End the game.
give you 2-3 runs, and then close it out.
It's legitimately gotten to a point where, hey, starter, go out and get me 18 outs because the last 9, we got it. Don't worry. And it's one of those things where when you're watching a baseball game, when you see a pitching change happen, you're so afraid that the great performance before him is not going to be continued. That's the biggest thing that comes into your mind. Oh my God, this guy has threw 7 shutout innings. Is this guy about to come in now, change the mojo, and give up a run? It's gotten to the point now, and that's the case in point right there. That bullpen stat that you just laid out is the case in point that it's no longer is the guy going to get it done. There are certain bullpens out there, and this is, again, the way baseball has shifted. You need a lockdown bullpen, and that is devastating when you're a team that just knows that 3 guys are about to roll out, and it's going to be so hard to hit all 3 of them.
It's going back to my heydays as a Yankee fan when we had 7, 8, 9. You knew once we had that lead, you were facing Robertson, Betances, Mariano. That was lights out for most games, and clearly we still have that kind of mojo with again Robertson, Betances, and now Chapman, and throw in a lefty specialist like Chasen Shreve. You throw in a Canley, dude throws 97 miles an hour, throws some junk. I mean, the bullpen is key, Andrew, and you hit it right in the head. Give me 18 ounce, and we'll do the rest. And you see the Tampa Bay Rays, every 5th starter is a friggin' bullpen start.
Yeah,
so they're just
and that's a lot of
their
analytics too. But yeah, at the end of the day,
but they're 26-26. Shout out Rays.
If you're looking into your team going into the Major League Baseball season, don't look anywhere past the bullpen first. And then you'll get a pretty good idea of the way your team is shaping up. It is always a pleasure on this midweek. It is absolutely awesome that we've been doing this podcast, Anthony, for 20 episodes. Obviously about 27 if you include the dabs, but 20 full episodes. It's been fun. I can't believe it. Remember out there, people, it's Twitter and it's Instagram.
Social media blitz.
It's DAAB Balls on both. Please tweet at us. Please Instagram us. We want to start getting some interaction on the social media. And tell us if there's something you love from the first 20 episodes that we had in the DAAB Balls podcast. We want to hear it there. Or visit us at daaballspodcast.com. Email us daaballs@gmail.com. Or visit iTunes, Podbean, and Apple Podcasts.
Tell your friends. Tell your friends. Episode 20. Andrew, in the books. You're one hell of a host. I'm getting out of here. We'll talk to you. We'll dab it Friday. We don't know what it is. We'll surprise you. That's what we do. We're crazy enough. Andrew, take us out.
We will be back on Friday. This is the DAAB Balls Podcast. I am Andrew Romano. That is Anthony Rinaldi, and we are out.
This is crazy, baby. Don't forget that boy told you get that dirt on your shoulders. I probably owe it to y'all.
This has been the DAAB Balls Podcast, powered by Power Arm Performance, your leader in baseball and softball training apparel. Visit PowerArmPerformance.com to get your gear and begin training the Power Arm way today.
They like the way I be leaning. All the rappers be hating off the track that I'm making, but all the hustlers they love it just to see one of us make it. Came from the bottom to the top.